So I'm reading through the Idaho 4 An American Tragedy book, and I've gotten through chapters 6 through 10. I wanted to review them for you now. Chapter 6 states Moscow, Idaho, fall of 2021 at the top. They start off by talking how Kaylee is making breakfast for her A-Face sisters, as well as Jack Decor, her long-term boyfriend, who actually went to U of I with her. They own a dog, Murphy, together, and they have joint custody, so he comes over and gets Murphy. He's a longtime tennis player, has strawberry blonde hair, and freckles. It's stated that he's like family. They also have another controlling statement for Kaylee, saying Kaylee decides the tempo and terms of the relationship. Then it starts talking about how recently they've had trouble in paradise. They finally mentioned the company that Kaylee was going to go work for in Austin, which is called Extreme Networks. It's an IT firm there. That the job would require a big move and probably leaving Jack behind. They're saying Jack is really serious about Kaylee and that he'll play the long game, but I put a note what makes them think that Jack will wait for her, especially if he potentially meets someone else in his everyday life. Also, why can't he just go with her to Austin? But they were saying that she wanted some independence and so maybe some time away from Jack. I'm not sure why, but I guess to have experiences or a little bit of a variety of life. So then chapter 7 says Moscow, Idaho, August 2021, and it talks about how the next day is bid day for Ethan Chapin and Hunter, and that they have options, and that he's 6'4", and that he wants some time to mull over his decision, so he goes into the showers. I just want to know where they got this information from. That the triplets grew up in Mount Vernon, Washington, north of Seattle. That Ethan is a superb athlete. He played varsity basketball. But that Hunter was always there with him, but one step behind. That the sister Maisie was a varsity soccer player, and all three of them are first-rate golfers. And that relates back to those golf clubs that Ethan had in the house that I don't know if they ever got those back. And you wonder if they potentially could have been used as a weapon in these homicides. It says that they're tight as can be, but what I found really weird from the Prime special is that Maisie says that they don't say I love you to each other, but they're supposed to be so tight with each other. Just found that kind of weird. And they said, whatever choice Ethan makes, Hunter will follow. And I said, why can't he just be his own person? They very much indicate that Ethan is the leader of the triplets. They state that Sigma Chi is the obvious choice for fraternity for athletes who have smarts. But I put a note saying maybe they would want something different. Why is it that the sororities separate, but the frats don't? Because they were trying to separate Kaylee and Maddie, but they don't do that with Hunter and Ethan. They said he was also considering this other house, Phi Delta Theta, which has a reputation for a dry house, but also a stoner gamer house. And they said it's not Ethan's thing, but how do they know that? People change in college. They said that an older adult, Hunter Johnson, has been persuasive. So he's already trying to influence, and he's always been involved in some form at this house. They say that Hunter was demonstrating qualities that Ethan admires in a brother, but it's like what qualities? They don't elaborate. So then you know how they said that he was in the shower and he was mulling over his decision. Well, Tim DeWolf, a blonde hunk varsity basketball and soccer player from Odessa, Washington, walks in and he says hi to him, and he says, what house are you going to? Ethan says, Sigma Chi. And Ethan goes, oh, well, I was thinking of Pi Delta Theta because of Hunter Johnson. And they say, Hunter Johnson, Ethan feels, has a unique sort of soulful charm. He's a talented guitar player. He's slender yet athletic, but also goofy. But Tim DeWolf is it. What does that mean? Ethan pauses and says, but if you're going to Sigma Chi, then I'm going to Sigma Chi. So I thought that was bizarre. Just because this guy is going, you're going? Chapter 8 starts Moscow, Idaho, October 3rd, 2021. It talks about 1118 King Road and Emily and Zana, and how that place is called Party Central. It has 5 occupants, 2 of them being them. The freshman Sigma Chi brothers come over to play a game called Champagne Shackles. It involves bottles of bubbly and zip ties. The rules of the game are simple. The ties go around the wrists of the pair of man and woman who have to stay tied together until their bottle of champagne is finished. Even when going to the restroom, and that's kind of what happens with Zana. She has a partner and she ends up going to the bathroom and he's shackled to her. They say that Hunter and Ethan walk in and Josie, roommate, basically calls dibs on both of them, and Zana just laughs and says, Josie, can you even tell them apart? They just talk about how she has a collective personality and she's just outgoing, and they have a nickname called DJ Zan because she always had her laptop and was always playing music for the get-togethers. And they say that Ethan is so smitten he asked Zana to become his big. According to the fraternity rules, there can be brothers and sisters in different houses, but though dating your Greek sibling is sort of incestuous, which they end up doing, And Zana never cared about rules. And they talk about how she'll speak when she's 100% sure what she wants to say, but she's life of the party, but also quiet. Didn't make sense. It was kind of contradictory. So chapter 9 talks about Boise, Idaho, April 2022. It says Karen Alant, or Emily's mom, that how Zana calls her at like midnight and tells her how she has a boyfriend now and like she's really close to her. I want you to be the first to know I've got a boyfriend. And Zana spills the details. No, it was easy that when they got together, we didn't have a big talk. It just kind of happened naturally. That it was just a natural progression because Emily has begun to date Hunter Johnson. Josie was seeing another adult, Lyndon Beck. And then, of course, Zana starts seeing Ethan. They say that Zana doesn't really talk about having grown up without a mother, but the signs of loneliness are there for them all to see, and that kind of Karen has jumped into that mother role for her. So there was a potential connection that I found in this book. It says sometimes Zana drives over to Pullman, where her older sister Jasmine, or Jazzy, is studying marketing at Washington State. Well, that's where Brian went. So could that be the connection to him? Then they talk about how Zana and Emily will go visit Jazzy, and then Emily like distracts Jazzy while Zana braids her her closet. They talked about how Zana didn't really have anywhere to go for winter break. You know, everyone was packing, but she wasn't, and so Emily invites her to her family home. So they do address the expressive hand movements that Zana makes, and we've seen in the noise complaints. At first, the Alans didn't know what to make of this free-spirited young woman their daughter had brought home, but Zana, with her expressive hand movements, her open personality, had a talent for winning people over and making people laugh. So now we know that that's just her natural personality trait. She might not have been on anything. And then it says Karen starts to consider Zana's second daughter. After Zana hangs out with Karen, telling her about getting together with Ethan, she finds Emily and gives her the news. You told my mom first, you bitch. Emily laughs with a says with a laugh, then gives Zana a hug. I did think it was kind of weird that she called her mom versus telling her first, but whatever. And chapter 10 starts with Priest Lake, Idaho, summer 2022. And then it says Ethan Chapin is finishing up being a server at Hills Resort Restaurant, nestled a beautiful Priest Lake up in the Idaho mountains. It says that the Chapins have 2 homes, so it shows that they come from money, and I can see how maybe Zana felt like she wasn't fitting in his lifestyle. I did get the vibe from the mom specifically that she may not have liked Zana for him like long term, but just was kind of accepting it. They say the community is tight, that no one locks their doors. They say that Xana's with them, and then Ethan plays, a game and volleyball, and he's like in full athletic mode, that he's a mythic Greek god in action. So I thought that was interesting that they refer to him as a Greek god. There is that theory that Ethan was a sacrifice, so a firstborn sacrifice. So I don't know if there's something there, but they say the mom, Stacy, was a former school principal and a Greek life alum at the University of Puget Sound, was relieved that her children would experience this safety net and type of community that she was welcome and a part of for all of her college years, but it's not safe, is the note I made. Then they have to mention that they're blasting Morgan Wallen on their boat, which is what the concert that they end up going to later, and that this summer Ethan had been inseparable from Zana. Changes ahead for the upcoming fall semester. Zana is moving from the Shark Tank, what they called the house that she lived in with the girls, a Shark Tank because it had like windows that made it look like one, into a rental house on King Road. Stacy and Jim have rented Ethan an apartment in Moscow. The Sigma Chi president told Ethan that frat brothers who are double deficient, that is with a GPA below 2.75 for 2 consecutive semesters, have to live outside the house. So why were Ethan's grades slipping, and do they blame Zana for this? They also said the Chapins happily welcome her as one of their own, but do they though? So that's my summarization of chapters 6 through 10. If you guys want to keep following along as I read this book, I know that the hearing is today for the sentencing, so I know there's going to be a lot of chatter about that, but I definitely think we should go through this and read and see what we can find out from information wise. So if you want to follow along, make sure you like and comment, and thanks for listening.